don't know who let Apple himself be in charge of this one.
They so caught up in my pride, but don't know what's inside. I've been down and I've been up, still ain't giving up.
He was arrested in 1984 and he was sentenced to 1 year, and a lot of people were getting paid, including Rich Porter, for selling these drugs. A lot of questions don't get asked, and a lot of boundaries don't get set as far as protecting your assets. His uncle was a heroin user for many years, and that only adds to the tension. That only adds to a building frustration between Apple and Rich Porter. Apple was associated with the Preacher crew, which the head of that crew was Clarence Preacher Heatley. And in the Preacher crew, they extorted and kidnapped multiple people, including the likes of Bobby Brown. I don't know who let Apple himself be in charge of this one. Who let the heroin junkie be the captain of this one? Because it was botched from the start. The abduction took place when Donnell Porter was on his way to school. After he didn't come home and Rich Porter got word that they couldn't find him, Rich Porter went home, he talked to his mom freaking out. Of course, her baby is nowhere to be found. So Rich Porter goes out looking. He is unsuccessful in finding his brother, and the phone call comes shortly after that. This phone call came and they demanded an amount of $500,000. A lot of people want to say that he did have this type of money, or he was working up to build this type of money, but this is the first thing that went wrong in this whole ransom, abduction, kidnapping scheme. You first start at $500,000, and it's high. But what happens in a negotiation? There has to be an actual amount that you are willing to settle for. That's how a negotiation goes. And that goes back to who in the hell let Apple steer the boat. Because you say $500,000. Rich Porter says, I'm not paying that. There's no way that I can get that. It's not that I wouldn't pay that. It's that I don't have $500,000 in cash. Don't have it. So after that, there was no negotiation at all. On Apple's part, on the Preacher's crew part. Where do y'all come in? Who is the spokesperson for this? Because to me, it sounds like the heroin addict was in full control. Rich Porter says, I don't have that. It's not happening. There is no other amount that is given. The next phone call comes, and it's Donnell Porter on the line himself. And I'm just going to blame it on Apple, because this whole situation has a person who is not in the right state of mind. This has an addict all over it. He cut off his nephew's finger to show that he wasn't playing about wanting the full amount of $500,000. They put the finger of this 12-year-old boy in a cup to be discovered by his family. And before this finger was brought to the family, before the finger was even cut, Rich Porter talked to his family and told them that he wanted to handle it himself. Once this finger was brought to the family, his family immediately ran to the police. That is where the police came in, did their whole wiretaps of the phone just in case somebody calls again, and that is when the communication stopped. After after the finger was cut. This has Johnny Apple Porter all over it. Not only did you not negotiate anything, you literally started a trickling effect, because a person can only bleed out for a certain amount of time until they are dead. They cut this poor child up and they put him in bags. But it's no way to say if they literally let him suffer before they did that, before they disposed of him. There's no way to say. Honestly, in a small, close-knit family, I think their emotions ran so high that they really couldn't even think of who it could be. And it was somebody who literally watched the young boy. It was somebody who literally watched him grow up. He was around when he was a baby, or was some type of factor in Donnell Porter's life, his young life. So the simple fact that he would be the mastermind behind this, the simple fact that he would be a person that not only would help kidnap, but would help kill and dispose of his own nephew's body and get nothing. You got nothing out of that. Nothing at all. It's terrible, but it's a prime example of how far family members' jealousy and greed can build and can trickle into situations like this. I wanted to end this video off the right way, and I wanted to clear up a couple things, because within my research on Donnell Porter, I keep coming back to the name William Porter, so I don't want to be disrespectful in saying William or Donnell. I'm kind of getting confused on what his actual name is, so I will continue with Donnell Porter. They cut his finger off as a way to show Rich that they were serious on collecting the total amount of $500,000. Mind you, Donnell Porter was kidnapped December the 5th, 1989. Communication completely stopped once the finger was cut off and once the police got involved. Now, with talking about Donnell Porter being kidnapped, Donnell Porter even being touched or being a part of this scheme, it makes me really upset, because not only was he a young child, he didn't know anything about the drug business. He didn't know anything about what comes with the drug business. He had no idea. He was a regular kid. And that's not the same for Rich Porter, because by the time that he was 12, 13, he was already selling drugs. December the 5th is when Donnell Porter was abducted. On January 3rd, 1990, almost a month to the day that his little brother was abducted, Rich Porter himself got killed. And it had nothing to do with his brother. It had nothing to do with the people who were involved. It had nothing to do with the stress or the confusion and the heartbreak that he was going through in that time. The selfishness was all around. It would be quite unbearable for me not to feel that. But as I said, I can only imagine being within the drug game and so deep into it that I'm not paying attention to how people are moving and what people are saying. The indirect feelings and passive aggressive behaviors from his Uncle Apple and Alpo would have definitely been noted in my brain, and for everybody that's watching should note and should notice that type of behavior, especially from your family. And there were people saying that with him being killed, and his funeral was on January the 10th, 1990. Once he passed, the family was unable to collect the money. But my thing on that is, sadly, I believe that Donnell Porter was already deceased. If you are willing to cut off a finger and you don't know how to stop bleeding and if you don't know how to reverse those actions, I guarantee that he bled out. And with being surrounded around people who are solely focused on the money and they're not trying to take the rational and smart ways to get it, they're not going to lend a hand after chopping off his finger. Number one, like I said, I believe that Donnell Porter was already deceased when Rich Porter was killed. I do believe that. It's unfortunate that the family put so much of finding him or getting him back into Rich Porter, because it's a family thing. You know what I'm saying? We have to sit down and really converse about who it could be or what the possibilities could be, especially once there was no contact anymore. That's more suspicious than anything. My thing is, we have to think. And a lot of times, just being real, it's family. And if that's where we have to start, just like if a husband kills his wife, the wife get found somewhere far away from the house, and they gonna start with the husband, or you know what I'm saying? They gonna go to the family. They're gonna question the family like they're suspects. That's what I feel like should have happened with the immediate family. Fuck the police. You know what I'm saying? But the police too. It just shows how not on their job that they was. It shows how high the emotions were. And you want to push that responsibility on the one person because you think that it's their fault. And Rich really couldn't help who he was. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't help the essence. He couldn't help the vibe that he had. He can't help that his uncle don't like that. He can't help that his uncle is jealous of the money that he got. He couldn't help that. But like I said, when you're in the drug game, you got to protect all assets before anything happens, not after. And one thing that I thought about with this was in 1987, AZ Faison got shot multiple times along with numerous family members, and most of them didn't survive. A lot of lives got taken that night, and that was a couple years before Sonny gets kidnapped. Now, you have to learn from not only what you go through, but you have to learn from what you see going on around you. I just want to say, me speaking on Rich Porter, none of it is out of hate. None of it is coming from disrespect. It's all the way around an unfortunate situation. And moving forward, what I would want for people who look up to Rich Porter as somebody who is inspiring and somebody who created a movement, be careful. You know what I'm saying? Be careful with everybody. Take everything with a grain of salt. Seriously. Like I said, protect all assets before anything happens. And no child should be a part of a scheme so nasty. A scheme so devious. A scheme so sneaky. No kid should be a part of that and should die at the hands of someone who never deserved to attain any money. Period. Rest in peace to Donnell Porter. Rest in peace to Rich Porter. And I'm gone.